So, Nintendo really doesn't want you to play used games on your Nintendo Switch 2. Remember when everyone was mad about the Xbox One not letting you play used games? Well, I guess history has a funny way of repeating itself. So, what am I talking about? Well, it looks like a Reddit user was banned for playing used games on their Nintendo Switch 2. Now, they claim these were Switch 1 games, and they were acquired through Facebook Marketplace. From what they say, they installed the updates, and then after about 24 hours, they were prevented from using online services on their console. And before you just say that this is rage bait, the user seems overall pretty positive on the experience. They said their issue was resolved through Nintendo support, and they were very helpful. I think if this was just rage bait, they would have tried to stir up a lot more drama, don't you think? I'll put a link in the description if you want to check out the Reddit thread, but from what it seems like, the seller backed up the games to the MIG switch and then sold off the actual copies to the user. If you're not aware, the MIG switch is a device that's a flash card for the Nintendo Switch. It also works on the Nintendo Switch 2. A lot of users have been banned for using it on the console, not the Switch 1, but the Switch 2. And if you're not aware, each game on the Switch and the Switch 2 has its own unique identification number. So if you back it up, it's tracked back to that original cartridge. Think of it like a serial number or a game console. If Nintendo sees that two copies of the game are being played at the same time with the same identification number, both consoles are banned. At least it seems that way right now. Now, I guess you can call Nintendo to get this resolved, like if you're actually following what you're supposed to do, but you really shouldn't have to do that. There should really be a better, foolproof way to check these things before banning consoles. From Nintendo's mind, it's like guilty until proven innocent. Think about all the used games you've bought in the past, like stuff from GameStop or other resale shops. Heck, think of stuff you borrowed from a friend. Through no fault of your own, you could get banned on your console just because you bought a used game from a store and someone happened to have backed that up. Now you might say that's a 1 in a million chance, and that's not going to happen to you. But just remember, it's not a problem until you're also affected. Think about how many games there are on the Nintendo Switch 1, and for that matter, also the Nintendo Switch 2. Another point I haven't even mentioned, someone might reseal a game and return it to a store. So you might think you got a new game, but in fact, you got a used game that someone backed up. Again, that might be unlikely, until it happens. This is really just a way for Nintendo to have more control. And it's pretty bad timing considering they just announced that they're discontinuing game vouchers for the Nintendo Switch 1. If you were unaware, game vouchers were coupons that you could buy for $100. They would let you buy 2 Nintendo Switch games from a list. These were most of the first party games, so it was a pretty good deal. I did not take advantage of this myself, mainly because I buy physical media, but it was still great to have that option. Effectively, you were getting $20 off. And in the case of Tears of the Kingdom, you were getting $30 off, because that game was $70. The thing is, I think Nintendo needs to stay in their lane. People like simplicity, not complicated experiences. I made a video a couple weeks ago talking about how the Nintendo Switch 2 being boring was a great thing, and I still stick by what I said. But don't get it twisted, I will not defend crappy business practices. By the way, if you're interested in that video, link in the description. Really though, Nintendo needs to stay in their lane. These virtual game cards, game key cards, upgrade packs, bricking or banning of consoles, it all just needs to stop. Just go back to making games that entertain and leave it at that. Look, I'm not gonna lie, Nintendo probably makes some of the best games, but we really shouldn't let this stuff slide. If we do, they're gonna get away with it. They're gonna just keep doing it and it's going to get worse. About 10 years ago, Nintendo was really struggling with the Wii U. And while we didn't get a lot of games, they did their best to keep the fans happy. You got a free game just for buying Mario Kart 8. It seems like now that Nintendo is successful again, and now that they're on top, they forgot about who got them there in the first place. They think the fans are just gonna stick around no matter what. And I'll be honest, if the Switch 2 is a continuation of the simplicity from the Switch 1, then I will stick around. On the other hand, if this is a move to an all-digital future where I can only buy new games and play them when and how Nintendo wants me to, then I'm going to find other options, other alternatives to playing these games. Or I just won't play your stuff at all. Nintendo does make the best games, but they have some of the worst business practices. Everyone gives them a pass because of that. And my last thought of the day is I was on the eShop and I noticed something weird about Donkey Kong Bonanza. Under the purchase option, it lists in-app purchases. Now, I hope this means nothing, I really do. But is it possible they're selling you cosmetics? My friend Jackson always says that Nintendo is about 10 years behind the other companies. And I'm inclined to agree with him. Shout out to him, by the way. So is Nintendo going to start milking their fans with microtransactions? Just a thought. This could be an error, or it could be a sign of DLC. That would be cool. But I also didn't see this for Mario Kart World, a game I would expect to get DLC. It's probably nothing. I want to assume that anyway. But I will say, just a prediction I have by the end of the Switch 2 generation, I do think we will have games that milk the fans with microtransactions. I think Nintendo will dip their toes, see what they can get away with. I mean, we technically already had that stuff with the Mii Fighter costumes of Smash Bros. So it's not a matter of if, but when. But what do you guys think? Leave your thoughts in the comments below. And thanks for watching, and I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Hey, really quick, we did change the name once again from Peripheral to Zoomed Insight. I just wanted something easier to find for people. This will be the last name change. Probably. Alright guys, thanks for watching.